Okay, everyone, welcome back to another episode with Modern Figures Podcast. Today we have Lori Mitchell, who is joining us from where? Lori, where are you at right now?
All the way from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
So, Lori is originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and we met Lori, I believe it was at a Black Compute Her event
Yes.
where Kyla and I were hosts extraordinaires and helped
MCs.
kind of MC and connect people with some of the really amazing Black women in tech that we've, not necessarily encountered over our trajectory on this podcast. And so we are really excited because we get to highlight Lori's story today. Lori is the founder and president of Black Women in Technology. And what I love about her story is that she is self taught. So when we talk about computer science and technology being something for everyone, you can literally start from the ground up. So she began her trajectory in CS as someone learning how to become a systems analyst and then decided to switch into this space. So she was already working in respiratory care as a respiratory therapist, and then decided to have a career switch and pursued a bachelor's of science in information systems at Penn State University. Once she was done there, she became a clinical analyst in an IT department at a hospital, and then parlayed her experiences into multiple positions in IT across the United States. Tell you a little bit about Black Women in Technology. So it originated as a meetup group in late 2014 when Lori was new to Los Angeles and a self-described tech enthusiast. She started attending tech events around the city. Today, the group boasts more than 500 members, all Black women, ranging in ages from 20 to 67 and maybe even more. And they're dedicated to learning about their past in technology and becoming the future of tech. So Lori's goal with Black Women in Tech is to provide a cohesive platform for African American and other women to develop relationships, receive recognitions, network, and learn from one another. In 2015, Lori became one of two community members of AnitaB.org's and local initiative, so the ABI.LA group. They were the first to launch these initiatives that were local across the US, and their group's launch was held at Google. And in October 2018, Black Women in Technology launched its first inaugural Northwest Summit in Seattle. This event was held on Microsoft's campus and hosted over 300 women from all backgrounds on topics ranging from blockchain to self-care. So you can see why our paths have crossed. She is passionate about outreach, reading books. She's got lots of hobbies, different initiatives, and side hustles. So we're going to try to get into all of that today. But Lori, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I know that, we've been, I feel like we've had this conversation on every show lately, Kyla, that we've been kind of struggling to get our schedules together with people.
Ain't that the truth?
But we finally got Lori here. I
Yes.
think part of our conversation on listening to you on a panel and some of the things that you said really resonated with both of us. And
Yeah.
so we were like, we have to get Lori here. And here you are.
Yay.
So
Yes.
we want to know everything.
All the things.
I will try to tell you everything.
Okay.
We'll do a
So,
Vulcan eye meld virtually.
okay. So, how did you grow up? Like, what was it like growing up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania?
Well, it's Harrisburg. You have to be here. But I will say that I am the oldest of five children. and I was very interested in science as a child. There was a book club that you could belong to when I was younger, that only sent you space and earth science types of books.
Hmm.
And I loved those books. I was a stargazer. I was a rock collector. I loved my earth science and space, and it was just wonderful to me. Then I moved over to chemicals. I had my first chemistry set when I was in third grade.
Oh, wow.
I didn't blow up anything, but some stuff came up over the peach, not the petri dish, but the beaker, and then I had to be careful and put that stuff away.
Hmm.
Um, I also became very interested in biology, and I got my first microscope when I was 12.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little science nerd, in addition to being a music nerd, um, and that's how I grew up. I was in every club that you can imagine in high school. I was in band. I was a band brat.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
and I
yeah.
continued, yeah,
A band.
and I continued on with my science studying, with the intention of perhaps becoming a physician one day.
Hmm.
And I took independent biology classes, and you know, I was in a program called Upward Bound where they gave
Yeah.
you extra oomph for your math and your physics and your science. So that's what it was like to be in Harrisburg and to be in high school. It was a very cool time for me, uh, a, a, a time of awakening and understanding and learning that I really appreciated a lot.
Hmm.
Did you have any like role models or anyone who was kind of championing science for you?
No, no, I did not. I didn't. I was, like I said, the oldest of five. So usually what I was trying to do was ignore the other four.
You're like, leave me alone with my
So I
experiments.
needed, yeah, I needed to pull away, and I needed to read. I needed to, you know, do things. My brother and I used to build models of Apollo, whatever, this, that, and the other.
That is
So we
cool.
used to do things like that as well.
So you were like an independent science contractor. Like no one had to like steer you into that direction. That's
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my rocks. I really did enjoy those rocks. I tell you, somebody threw them out when I went to college.
fighting words. It's fighting.
That's
Yeah.
awful. That's
It's
so
one of
awful.
those
Like,
sisters. It's one of
yeah,
those sisters of mine.
See,
that sounds right.
they didn't appreciate it.
I
Yeah.
too enjoy rocks, and apparently so does my toddler. So we collect, stuff outside, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And I still have stuff that I probably should like. I'd show people this all the time. I'm sitting next to like this block of concrete that I made.
Oh no.
I love how it
Yep.
just comes out randomly. For
It's
those of
just
you who
here.
are just listening and not watching, Jeremy pulls out this huge, almost like
It's a
paper
concrete
towel
cylinder.
sized concrete cylinder.
It looks
Yeah,
cool.
it is
Yeah.
cool. I
It's
have,
got some limestone in there and some granite.
yeah, I'm just hating. I
See?
do not know the ingredients for concrete, so I'm just hating.
But yeah, I think that, stuff like that, I feel like it's benign. Like people see you doing it and they don't realize like science could be a good pathway for you if you're interested in those types of things. Because you like to, categorize things or, you know, look at different features of whatever you're finding for whatever reason. Doesn't have to make sense. But
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, my mom got me interested in technology. She bought us all those, and you guys will not know this
Try me,
probably.
try me.
She bought us those Mattel games,
Oh,
those little Mattel games and I had a soccer game, my brother had a football game,
I remember
you know,
those. They were
somebody
like
had a
this
baseball
big
game.
and had like two buttons on
Yeah, yeah, they were
it.
only
Yeah.
so big, and they had the red infrared things going across, and you
Mm-hmm.
had to pretend, you know, that. So that was my first foray into tech because I do believe I took that apart.
And what did you discover?
Then I couldn't put it back together and make it work.
You were an early engineer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and my mom also brought home an IBM 386
Oh wow.
computer from work. They were getting
That's
rid of
the
it, so she brought
original.
it home.
Those 86s were the
And
originals.
it was huge. My brother and I got to that thing. We took it apart.
Uh-oh.
We were able to put it back
Okay.
together and it came on, but then we kept taking it apart. And after a while, it just gave
It
up.
was like, look, y'all playing too much now.
Yeah, yeah. But that I found that to be fun and very interesting that you could take it apart, put it together, and it would work again. So from that perspective, you know, there's always that tinkering part of me that wants to, you know, just obliterate something. I look at my iPhone sometimes and I think, no, don't do it.
You know, I think the same thing. I'm like, if they would just give us access, like that's the only reason I
Yeah,
like PCs over MacBooks, only in the aspect that you can take it out, swap out things, and not have to go to the store versus, you know, MacBook's a little more complicated and they void your warranty if you do. But, you know,
It's the warranty for me. Yeah.
yeah, but
I'm not going to mess that up. And now they've soldered things to the board, so
yeah.
it's
I
like
know.
y'all
That is
really
so
don't want us to mess
unfair.
with stuff. It's not fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm
No.
not a computer scientist or engineer by any means, but I do enjoy soldering things and taking stuff apart. I don't feel confident that I would be able to put it back
You can, if you
at
see what it
all.
looks like and just put it back the way it looks.
Mm,
I was always maxing
yeah.
out
Yeah.
everybody's RAM in college. Like that was my thing. Like I'll be like, go buy some memory, and I
Yeah.
will put it in there for you.
That's what my
Yeah,
dad was
just
for.
pop it in.
So I know that, you had this passion, right? And for science that you were interested in, but that's not the direction exactly that you followed, right? Like you ended up going to a community college, right? To get an AA.
Well, I can tell you what I did first. This is
Okay.
the first time I went to college. I usually don't put that down anywhere because it was the first time I didn't finish college. So I don't like that that was a thing. But I went to a college for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing pretty well, but decided to get married. So
Oh,
when I
okay.
went to college, I took uh, liberal arts biology and wanted to become a med tech. I wanted to become a med tech because I didn't see a lot of black med techs when I would
Hmm.
go on site visits for career fairs. So I wanted to become a med tech and insert myself into the department and just be you know, a pain in somebody's side. So I decided to get married after 3 years of college and quickly had children, and so I couldn't go back to school to finish my fourth year because it's not as easy as it is now with virtual learning and all of that.
Oh no, that would
No.
have been really
Yeah,
hard.
so it was a problem. So I decided to stay in the vein of biology, and I would go into respiratory therapy because again, I did want to work in a lab
Mm-hmm.
or from bounce off from that lab experience to becoming a physician. So either way, I figured something that I could make work in order to become a doctor.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to respiratory school and got my associate degree in applied science and worked as a respiratory therapist from 1993 to
Oh
2008.
wow.
That's amazing.
So you
So can
liked
you
it.
tell our listeners, yeah, can you tell our listeners what you do as a respiratory therapist so they have an idea?
Absolutely. We deal with cardiopulmonary issues of humankind, and what we would do, we would be the ones to maintain airways, maintain a patient's oxygen level, and you could do that through different modalities. One of the main modalities we used was ventilation, when you place someone on a ventilator,
Mm-hmm.
and maintain it, make sure it's working like it's supposed to, configure it, whatever it needs to whatever needs to happen for the patient, that's what you do.
And
We
sounds
also gave out
highly
breathing
technical.
treatments. Yeah, breathing treatments to people that had asthma, COPD. We also took care of neonates, all the way from neonates all the way up to, people who were 100 years old.
Amazing. And so, I mean, if you think about the current climate we're in, right? Like you are what people refer to as essential personnel. That's what you were doing. Something that, like, if you have someone coming in from an emergency,
Hmm.
probably you're one of the first people to have hands
One of the
on.
first there.
Mm-hmm.
Get respiratory down here, stat.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we heard a lot. Yeah. Where's respiratory?
You're like, I'm right here.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So eventually you decided to transition out of this field that you were doing well in and to become a clinical analyst and to just sort of change into having a tech focus. So like what was that? What was the thought behind that transition? Like what made you go in that route and like how'd you prepare?
Well, respiratory therapy is technical by
That's
nature.
true.
We
Mm-hmm.
always have gadgets, and we are always playing around with the ventilator.
Were you taking
And
apart the ventilators too?
well, yeah, you could do that. We had to take apart, one of these machines. We had to take it apart and put it back together,
I'm,
because it was one of those things, and it was fun because we would
mhm.
race one another to do it, make sure we did it
Oh
right.
wow. I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, yeah. So it was pretty cool. But when I got that position in the department as a system administrator, and I was learning words like database, database machine, systems machine, application server, the server names, PK unzip, DOS 5, all these different things that we were doing. I was intrigued by it and began to dig into each one of those things separately, and understood how uh, a system would work, how you put a system together. You need the database, you need the application, you need the server, you need a file server, you need all these different things. And it was amazing to me to see how our system worked. We were using handheld computers before. I mean, this is the 90s, and we're using handheld computers. And we were downloading our workloads in the computers. We were going out, performing our functions, documenting and charting on patients, keeping track of inventory, things like that through these boxes, and uploading and downloading and divvying out, reports
Mm-hmm.
and workloads. It was really
That it
amazing.
sounds like magic for the 90s.
Well, yeah, it was magic. It cost a lot,
how
but it was
how
magic.
big were these computers that you had to like that you were taking around?
So we called it the brick. We called it the brick because you could drop it from, I think they said, like 8 feet, 7, 8 feet. You could drop it and it wouldn't break.
Oh wow.
That's
Okay.
how thick it
Wow.
was. It was a Symbol Technologies 3000 handheld computer, and it had a screen that was like 2 inches by 2 inches. You could hardly see anything on
Oh
it,
gosh.
It- but you could see enough to do your work. It was bigger. The screen was the smallest thing on it. The battery was bigger than the screen. So yeah, it was a pretty cool system, and the fact that I got a chance to sit there and learn it, almost at my leisure, I was able to go out for training. I was a part of the user group. I
That's
became
great.
really involved with this system. And it was very interesting to me. And I really appreciated the opportunity. And that's when it goes to having a supervisor or a manager that is interested in mentoring.
Mm.
And that's what I found out with my manager. She was interested in mentoring me by allowing me to take these steps to use and configure this system. And it was great fun. It really was. But then I decided, well, why don't I do this full time?
Mm.
Why don't I do this tech stuff full time? So thought about it. Went up to Penn State, see if they would have me. And then I went ahead and got into their information systems program, and it took me 2 years to get done with it.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That is amazing.
And
Yeah,
you
I
had
went into
children.
Yes.
it was hard. I went into
Oh
poverty
my gosh.
to figure out. I it was hard. It was really hard. No joke. So I had two children
Mm-hmm.
with me. One of my children had passed away already.
Sorry.
Aw.
So that was a catalyst, a life-changing event for me to change the direct trajectory
Mm-hmm.
in order to do something that would make me feel like I was accomplishing something. So that was an experience that was needed for me to go in the direction that I went to. Now I can say that now, but back then I was a mess.
Yeah.
But I can definitely say that there's a method to the madness, and there's a method to life, and you just follow where it takes you.
Absolutely. Wow. So when you had a lot on your plate as you were making this transition, was it everything that you thought it would be? Was it different? Was it 'cause you finished in two
It
years, so
was. It was awesome. I got my first job at a hospital and as a clinical analyst. I had a ball. I had a ball. First of all, I noticed that the women in the department did applications only, and the men did the hard tech. They did the hardware, they did the servers, they did all that stuff. So I didn't like that. So I was always over on the side where the men were so they could show me how to do things. And they did. They showed me how to set up an exchange server. They showed me how to set up other servers. I maintained the servers. I took call for the servers. I did so much. I
Mm-hmm.
learned radiology technology, DICOM. I learned HL7. I learned EDI X12. I learned all these different languages and integration tools for technology and healthcare. It was just amazing. I had a ball. I had a ball. I enjoyed it greatly.
that's real cool. So eventually you decided to head to LA. So what prompted that decision? Or are we jumping a few ahead?
You're jumping a few ahead, but I don't mind. I'll take it back.
Okay.
One of the significant things about working in technology is the pay. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's the pay. It pays well. But when I got my first job out of school, working in tech, it was okay. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. So I
Mm-hmm.
worked there for 5 years, and afterwards, I decided to move on to another opportunity in the area. So that's what I did. That was a 20,000 a year jump in salary
Wow.
just by making that change. So then I decided to work that job for a couple years, and then I moved on to become a consultant in healthcare in the electronic medical record that I was certified to work in. So
Mm.
I did that, and bam, another $20,000 a year salary raise.
Yeah, because now you get to make your salary, right? Like,
I do as a consultant. So I mean, it was really working out well. And then at the end of that one, that was about 6 months. Next thing you know, I'm up to six figures. And I had no idea how any of that even happened. So
Yeah,
then
you were
eventually I ended up,
competent. That's how it happened, right? Like you knew what you were doing.
well, it was amazing to me. And the struggles that I had been struggling with before more or less became an issue of the past. And
Hmm.
I appreciate the struggle, but I appreciated being able to make money to survive and to
Yeah.
live. So then after that, I took a job in LA as a consultant, and they liked me so much they asked me to work for them.
Wow.
So I moved everything to LA. I moved there by myself, um, packed up everything and moved, left my kids behind. They were older now. I was like, you'll get over it. And moved to LA and had a great time in Los Angeles working for Cedar Sinai,
Nice.
and worked there for
Oh.
about 3, 4 years, I think. 3, 4 years,
3 years and
and
3
took a
months.
job as a IT director.
I said
Huh?
3 years and three
She said,
months, says your LinkedIn.
3 years and 3 months. And took a job as a first as an IT manager and then as an IT director for CHE Behavioral Health.
So you just
So
pivot.
that's
You
what I
just
did,
like
and I
kept
stayed
going up.
there, and that kept
oh
going
yeah.
up, kept going up, and which was something I hadn't expected to do necessarily, but I appreciated the opportunities. So that's where my IT, life has taken me so far, and I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So I was recently downsized.
Oh wow.
Mm.
So what I'm doing now is just building back up, and like I said, I'm not done yet. So you'll see more of me in the tech side.
Nice.
I love that. When you said you were just building on things, Kyla, I was like levels, levels,
Yeah.
levels. 'Cause we
Hmm.
always check like our like sound where it's at by doing that, and
No, but she is
Kyla's
the
usually the one who
definition
says
of
it.
levels, levels, levels.
I know. That's what I thought. That's so cool. I think it's almost like you to me it's like you're fearless, right? Like you're somebody who took a lot of risks. You're saying it like it was, oh, and I did this, and then I did that, and then I did that. But like really and truly, it took courage to even just move into the space initially. Like great courage, especially with like young, really young children, to make that big of a change in a time where, yes, there was a lot of technology and stuff in use, but I don't think that it was very clearly defined anywhere how
No,
to
it wasn't.
enter into these spaces. It's not
Well,
like you
one of
had
the
the
ways.
internet and,
Yeah.
just looking at this
Well,
stuff.
I got the internet. I did. I saw this internet thing coming out, and I was like, I said a prayer, and I said, God, I don't want to be left behind.
Yeah.
Mm,
And an opportunity came up for me to get a free computer.
Nice.
It was a Packard
Oh my
Bell.
goodness.
okay.
You don't remember that, do you? It's
Now
okay.
I
I
remember
understand.
Packard Bell because then it became HP, right?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I remember. I have small
So I
memories.
had a Packard Bell computer, and then I started with my modem, my 9.6 baud
Wow.
modem, and I started connecting to the internet through
Yep.
AOL.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning about this computer more, and I had already been to a computer class to take apart computers and put them back together.
Right.
So then that was the first time I experienced a virus on my computer. I cleaned it off. I
Mm.
did all this kind of stuff myself. And that's where the self taught part came in. So that
Okay.
opportunity to get that computer really, really helped me when it came to understanding the jargon,
Yep.
you know, creating a website on
Oh
GeoCities.
yes, and Angel Fire. That was the other one. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it was quite an experience. But I prayed I did not want to be left behind.
And you certainly were not. You were like, I'm gonna keep reskilling and learning about what's coming up. And so I have a question for you.
Yeah, as long as I can. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm used to doing,
Hmm.
and I recommend that for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take that traditional trip through tech. I was 38 when I graduated.
Oh wow.
I was 38 and worried that no one would hire me because I was 38 and black. And I was really concerned about that. I was the only black woman in my class, and I was the main thing that was taught in class was a lot of programming and coding, and I came to the conclusion that's not my calling.
Hmm.
And Java did it for me. Java just killed it, and I could not bring myself to code anything for anybody, anywhere, any place.
I mean, but I think that's also a good example of how you can be in tech without having to have a job that's purely coding. Like, there's so many
Amen.
avenues. And yeah, and I feel like now though, if you were to jump into it, there's so much that they've done with like these editors and how like you write half a line and it's like, oh yeah, let me fill in the rest of the blank for you, and it's correct.
But that's still not like where people want to live, Kyla. Like
I
some of us just,
know.
want to help solve the problems from a different angle,
I
right? Like we need
guess.
you.
I guess.
We need you, absolutely. But y'all need us too.
It's true. Everyone's needed. But I did want to ask, like, did you have any sort of like situations, like either, in your job or during school where it was like very blatant that you are a black woman? Like, did you always feel included, or did you feel as though you had to kind of break into spaces?
Well, I always felt like I had to break into spaces, but one of the things that I noticed about myself, I was used to being the only one in the room. I remember being in second grade and winning an award for something, and we had to go to this fancy hotel. I was the only black girl there. So it's something that I've been used to. As old as I am now, I find it sad that we're still in that same predicament. I really do. I thought we would be way down the line by now. But um, the main problem that I remember having at an organization that shall not be named was when I was told I was aggressive. And I can't tell you what I said because this is a family show.
We do have a G rating.
Yeah, you have, yeah. So I don't
We can
want to,
bleep you. No, okay.
but but you can imagine when someone calls you aggressive and they tell you that your colleagues are complaining about you because you're aggressive. The way you talk, it's just you talk so rough. The way you explain yourself, it's just they just feel very uncomfortable. And again, I can't tell you what I said, but pretty much I explained that there was a moment missed, a management moment missed when that could have been explained to as to if you have that problem, you can go to Lori and you can talk to her about it. But they're so worried that I'm gonna rip their heads off because the manager believes that I'm this person as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
it was just
Mm-hmm.
it really made me very upset,
I mean, because people have the same
very upset.
behavior and don't get those labels. People who don't look like us have the can exhibit the same, and they're like, oh, they're just tenacious. They're just, they just have so much veracity, and it's like, oh, coming from a black woman, oh, okay, now I'm threatened.
That now they're threatened, and I complained about on being on the receiving end of someone who wasn't black, being screamed at, and all, and finger pointing and everything, and nothing was ever done. But for me, I found out how black I was when they told me that I was aggressive. I was like, oh, I am black.
Like, I thought we was
So
cool. I guess you just see me as aggressive now.
yeah,
Man, I was hoping, when you had said part of your story about how, like, the folks will show you, like, the hardware side and different things, that maybe it was a little bit different and that, you had these great mentors that welcomed you into spaces. But
She is shaking her head. But I
I've
mean,
had some great mentors, don't get me wrong, but that one wasn't one.
Mm,
So I had to, make plans, and, it caused me to be very cautious and walk around almost whispering to everybody because I didn't want everybody to think I was being this mad black
not
woman
whispering.
ready to, yeah, ready to rip them in half. Um, but I still held that same. I took a disc assessment.
Mm,
You ever take a disc
mm-hmm.
assessment? Took a disc assessment, and I am, if I remember correctly, a high. Oh, I can't remember. I'm not even going to try. But the disc assessment showed that again, I'm a control person. I like to control things. I like to make sure things are a certain way. And that was mistaken for being an aggressive or assertive. They changed it to assertive instead of
Mm-hmm.
aggressive. To me, it's the same thing.
I feel like that was like the
yeah.
dominance part, the D, like being bold and being assertive. But for some reason, that boldness looks different in different packages to people. Like they take it as different things in different packages, which is a shame because you're definitely missing out on leaders and trying to basically snuff out people's, their own just their aptitude there because you're like, oh no, your tenacity is seen as something that is threatening to me. So I've recently had a conversation with a friend about something very similar at work, and I wish that was not still the narrative.
It's the narrative because I think there's a lot of unspoken bias
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to black people in general, and especially to black women. And it goes back to even earlier in our existence where people see something, they, especially some of the shows and stuff on TV. Don't get me too
Mm-hmm.
started on entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
but there are moments where we're depicted a certain very negatively, and they take that to heart when it comes to meeting people for the first time. And when someone asks you, "Are you all black? Are you sure?
Right.
Are you, do you know where you come from? Where are you from? You know, do you know this rap song?" Things like
Right.
that.
Oh gosh. Yeah. No, I'm sitting here thinking about some of the tropes that you would see in the media, but I also think about like culturally how Black women are raised in this
Mm-hmm.
country. Like we're kind of raised to be strong and independent and problem solvers. Really, like we are expected to just be able to make stuff happen,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lens, like the idea of like this magical black girl being able to accomplish in spite of, people find that intimidating.
Yeah.
And when someone's intimidated by you, they assign all of these negative ideas about your personality that may not even apply to you at all,
Right.
right? Um, and so I get that from other people a lot, that like I'm intimidating and people are scared of me, and it's like I'm not really scary.
I saw like a meme online that was
Yeah,
like,
and it's like, what is that? What does that even mean? And I think if you sat them down and asked them to explain, what does that mean that you're scared?
Hmm.
yeah,
Really, what does that? What does that? Am I going to bite you? Am I going to stab
right.
you? Am I? What does that mean? And it's unfortunate. I'm the oldest of five. How else am I supposed to speak? I had four brothers and sisters I had to holler at.
Yeah, they don't see it
Yeah.
that way. I saw something online that kind of flipped the script on that conversation. It's like, am I intimidating or are you intimidated? Because I don't have anything to do with your perception of me. Because you might just
Hmm.
because you're intimidated of me, that does not make me intimidating. So,
Right. Or like I don't think that I'm better than you because
right.
I'm over here doing my
Right. If
work.
me minding
Right.
my
Like I'm just
business
doing
and
my
you have a
work.
problem with me, that sounds like a personal problem. So,
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a real thing. That really
And I
is.
think there's also used to the mammy stereotype of acquiescing and let me
Yes.
help, let me this. And the second that you're not that, it's like, oh, wait, I thought you're supposed to be just so helpful and selfless and this. You have thoughts and ideas and opinions and you're ready to voice them. How dare you? I feel like that's the intimidating part, intimidating and air
Yeah.
quotes part of it.
Yes. Well put.
But I want let's transition because those are some of the negatives, that you've experienced as a black woman in technology, but you're doing something extremely positive about black women in
Yes.
technology. So we want you to be able to talk all about black women in technology, how it got started, all of those things for anyone who's not familiar with it that's listening.
Well, thank you. I will do that. I will tell you, when I graduated from Penn State, I was looking for an organization to belong to. I like to belong to organizations, good networking, deals and things that go on with or associations or organizations. And I couldn't find one to match where I was. I was 38 years old. I was a non traditional student. I've been married and divorced. I have children. I am, you know, just just here and just trying to figure out who would take me. And in Harrisburg is a small town, and there was no organization like that here. So I go and I continue on with my career, and then I end up in Los Angeles. And I've been obviously thinking about this for years and trying to figure out who and where can I belong without feeling intimidated. I felt intimidated by educational pedigree. People, graduated from Stanford, I graduated from Harvard, and I'm like, I graduated from little old Penn State. And, it was intimidating. And some people, some organizations only wanted engineers. They only wanted, certain people, and I didn't fit that mold. I didn't work in an IT department where I was dealing with the hardware and the servers and the network and all of that. So I wanted to create something where everyone would be invited to the table to attend. So I created Black Women in Technology and launched it in 2014. I'll never forget, it was October 4th, 2014. And I did that with the intention of having everyone and anyone who says they work in tech, because just because you work in tech doesn't mean you work in a tech company. You don't work at a tech. Tech is everywhere. Tech is in businesses everywhere. And if you're sitting there and you're working the help desk, you're in tech. If you're sitting there and you're an analyst, you're in tech. So whether they were tech adjacent or tech there, I
Hmm.
wanted them to feel a part of the support system. So that's why I created Black Women in Technology.
No, you made your own community.
Yes.
Yeah, I did that. I did that for myself because I wanted women to, I didn't want them to feel like I felt when I graduated and I was by myself.
Mm.
Hmm.
If they are able to have someone to bounce something off of, that's ideal and that's just perfect.
Hmm.
One of the things that we've recently discussed was imposter syndrome. And, when you find out that you've been working in tech all these years, as I have, and still feel like I have some imposter syndrome, that was just a great discovery for me. So it's those types of topics, the microaggressions, the bias,
Hmm.
the whatever we can talk about. It's a safe platform. It's there for us to discuss and to just let it all out. How you feel, how everything has been going with you in your tech life. That's what we're about.
So,
How often do you meet?
So what we do every other week, there is a virtual networking event where women come on. What I do, I try to have a special guest for about 15 minutes. And then after the special guest, we get to talk amongst ourselves. about, and the guests can definitely be included. And we talk amongst ourselves about some of the things we're going through. And I'm telling you, some of these people are really going through some
Mm.
stuff, especially at work.
I
Oh yeah.
believe it.
And I feel so bad, but the thing that is good is there's a whole host of women on that call trying to encourage them to stay the
Hmm.
course and to hang in there and to, utilize self-care, do what you have to do, don't let them get to you. And that's the thing that's special to me,
I love that.
that people are taking the time to do that.
Yeah, one of the themes
That's
that we've
amazing.
seen on the podcast is that making community when there is not community, like that has been a lot of people's, success milestone. Like, hey, I did not see people doing what I'm doing. Guess what I'm going to do? Make a group for us. And now we have community. So I love that that's also part of your story too. Just a quick question. Would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
An introvert,
Really? Huh.
yes.
See, I would have. So you,
She has introvert vibes.
I could see maybe the introvert, but then you made this huge organization. So introverts can also get people to convene and have these huge orgs.
Yeah, and then they need to sleep for 3 days after the convenience. See, that's why I say I'm an introvert. I can do
Oh,
it, and the whole time I'm doing it, I'm running on anxiety
oh my
adrenaline,
gosh.
not normal adrenaline, anxiety adrenaline.
It
And
reminds
then
me of Jamaica
Oh
Burge, right?
yeah.
Like she's an introvert according
Which
to
I
her.
refuse to believe, but we'll let her claim introvert.
But just there's a lot. I think there are a lot of people who understand like introvertism does not mean
Right.
isolation, right? Like it means that you just need to be able to recharge
Yeah,
away.
you draw your energy from
yes,
not
But
being
you
around
need
people.
people. Yeah, you need people
Yeah.
still. And especially in a space where, you may not find characteristics of others that you work with or even in the community you live in
hmm
who you can relate to. So I think it's beautiful to have, and it's a virtual
Yes.
community, but also you have in person
Yeah, they
events
had the
from what
summit.
I've read,
What
right?
was it like having the summit at
yeah,
Microsoft?
I was exhausted. I don't hardly remember what happened, but it was amazing. It was an amazing thing. I mean, how many people can say I've been to Microsoft headquarters?
Right.
Now I was there last week and I just saw, no, 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 it doesn't happen that way. So we were there at the headquarters and it was quite an event. It was really quite an event. And the night before, we had a reception at the African American Museum in Seattle.
Nice.
Blew my mind. Just completely blew my mind. It was awesome. It
Mm-hmm.
was an awesome event. And then the next day at the summit, seeing all those women come through and people walking up to me and saying, I'm so glad you had this. I really appreciate that you put this on for us. All the
Mm-hmm.
women that presented were Black. They were women and they were Black. And that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure happened. We're teaching us. We're teaching us because we are qualified to do so, not because we just thought it was a cheap trick to do, but because we're qualified. We're qualified to teach ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what was that Northwest Summit was about. So our other in on-site events will be happening since COVID has let up a little bit.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be having some more on-site events in the coming year, especially in 2023. I've also partnered with Blacks in Technology.
Yeah.
And between Blacks in Technology and Black Women in Tech, we aim to stop the divide and bring as many people into technology as possible.
That's awesome. So please keep us
We'll
posted.
keep,
Yeah, so
yeah.
we can like promote what you're up to, like on our social media as well.
So we can be a
And
part
go
of
as
it,
well. And
right?
to
Like,
attend
yeah.
and promote.
Just let us know. We would love to support everything that you're doing because it really aligns with what we are trying to do through our podcast, through our nonprofit, and the work that we hopefully will be able to do to change like Black girls' trajectories in computing and tech. Um, what is like something that you feel like was really exciting to see? Like, is there some one story from these past 6, 7, 8 years of your organization that you would want to like share that was a cool outcome maybe?
Yes, I remember we went to an Amazon event in Santa Monica,
Mm-hmm.
and I posted the event on Meetup, and women signed up for it. So we had no idea what was going to be going on there. We just wanted to make sure that we were. It's like nobody's going to tell us we can't be there, so
Right.
let's
Yeah.
go.
Right.
So we went there, and the commentator person was talking, way over everybody's head, even the men in the audience. There weren't that many women in there. And then here comes 5 black women just sitting around, just like chilling and talking. And, it was quite an event because the women that sat there, they were amazed because they felt like they had been missing something because no one had invited them to these types of events.
Hmm.
Sure, we go to events where, we network amongst one another, but one of the things that we miss out on is going to other events. Like, when's the last time there was a large group at
Yeah.
IEEE, a large group of black women at IEEE, or some of the other groups? So that's why we showed up at this Amazon group. And it's still the same to this day. There still aren't that many people that go to those types of events. And those are the events that we need to be at. We need to be
Yeah.
shown, yes, it's okay to go to an event where we're amongst ourselves, but we need to fan out. We need to fan out in numbers. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we did that day. It may have only been 5 of us, but we were there.
And it's noticed
Mm-hmm.
whenever.
And we were yes, we're put them on notice. We exist. We're here. You can keep talking. That's cool. As long as I can leave here with a free Amazon Echo. Echo was just now coming
Mm.
out.
And that's the thing. It's you don't
And
get invited to those
yeah,
things. You get seen as, oh, you're the diversity person. You don't want to come to this real tech thing. It's like, no, you can invite me to the mainstream things as well. I feel like we need to
that's
orchestrate
where we need
a
to be.
takeover. I feel like that needs to be the word. A
Oh, a
takeover.
takeover. I love
We
that.
just need to figure
I
out
love
one
that.
place and just make a tech over.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
and
it's
and we need to, we need to show up. If we don't do anything else, we need to show up. And that's been also part of my philosophy. We need to be there even if we think we're going to be the only one.
Absolutely.
You got
yeah.
to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that it's great that you also support other organizations like AnitaB.org and Black Compute Her, and so you have both, right? Like you're intentionally participating in both of these, spaces where it's like these are the things for me, and these are the things for y'all to know that I'm me,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I am all the things that y'all don't think I could be, right? Like I am excellent and knowledgeable and proficient and capable, and I belong here as much as you belong here. Maybe a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, we all need to get to that point. Imposter syndrome be damned.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to get to that point where we are, yes, I need to be here. I belong here because I just do.
Yeah. And I can.
And then it's no longer black women in tech or black computer or anything. It's just women in
Yeah.
tech. We
Mm-hmm.
all just become women in tech instead of, calling out ethnicity or race. But in the meantime, that's what we're going to do so that everyone knows that we're here.
I love it.
I could live for that dream. That's a cool dream.
Yeah, it's a cool dream.
I love
Maybe
it.
by the time my granddaughter gets up to her age, I'm a grandmother, by
I
the way.
saw that on
I
your
have
profile.
three beautiful grandchildren,
Aw.
Langston, London, and Liza,
Aw. I like the alliteration.
That's
all
sweet.
named after me because I'm
Aw.
Lori.
That's really sweet.
Oh, that is sweet. I don't know if you saw a little Afro poof come in the frame because Amara had to come visit,
Of
but
course. She's our
um,
manager.
I yeah, I listen. I'm really inspired by your story. I'm okay, everybody. I'm 35, right? And so I think about like I have one young child, right? And if 3 years from now somebody asks me to like change my whole trajectory,
Yeah.
I have like that gives me anxiety, right? Like that's terrifying. Um, and I think it's great that you are this role model for people to see like tomorrow you could wake up and decide I'm gonna change who I am. I'm gonna be something different and make a very amazing career out of that,
Yeah.
right? So it's not too late for any of
It's
us.
Yeah.
not. It's not too late. It's possible. It can happen. There's plenty of jobs out there, even though they're having all those horrible layoffs. But
Yes.
somebody's still hiring in tech.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also admired
They
that
really
your
are.
story, you had so many places where anybody would say, "Oh yeah, it's okay if you were to bow out now." Like you had so many places where you could have bowed out, but you didn't. Like I really, really admire that about
Hmm.
your story. But speaking of, you talked about that you're transitioning into, being downsized. Like, what can people hire you for? What can, if someone's listening and they're like, "Hey, I want to utilize your skill set," what kinds of opportunities are you open for right now?
Well, I'm open for something that is not going to make me work as hard. You're 35, I'm 58. So I'm looking at the horizon.
Uh-huh.
But that being said, I'm still in healthcare and I love healthcare. I love working for healthcare IT because I love uh, helping patients. Everything we
Mm-hmm.
do in healthcare helps a patient.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's done in healthcare IT, there's a patient on the end of what we're doing. And I love patient care. So anything in healthcare IT, I'm available for it.
Okay. How do people find you, Lori? How do they find you on the internet?
They could find me. Hopefully, they don't find those pictures. But anyway,
What picture?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hilarious.
They can contact me at Lori at blackwomenintech.com.
Awesome.
Okay.
And I believe we
They
have
can send
your
me an email. I'll be glad to talk to them.
and I believe we have your social media information for Black Women in Tech, right? Let's see.
Yeah,
Yes, I
because
don't know
they're
how
on
long I'm going to stay
Yeah.
on
LinkedIn.
Yeah, we
Twitter.
have your
Mm-hmm.
Twitter and
LinkedIn.
yes.
Yeah.
Facebook. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so people can definitely get a hold of you and become part of the community so they can attend summits and and attend virtually because they might be the only one in their area so they can get that sense of community.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and inspiring us. It was really wonderful to get to know you a little bit more.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it
Of
very
course.
much.
Thank you.